Hey guys, welcome to a new video, and this video has been really hard for me to make. Normally on this channel we talk about a lot of positive things. I don't talk about issues like this, but today I have to talk about racism in Japan because of some events that have happened in the past few weeks. So it might be different from my usual videos and it's gonna be really long. I'm sorry for the length, but I had to talk in detail and I'll try my best to explain all the things that I got to know about the situation, and I'm trying to share my experience of being in Japan for it will be 5 years next month, and the experience I myself had. And I reached out to friends who also, if they had similar experience like racist experience related to racism in Japan. So I posted on Facebook, I got some messages and feedback, and I got to know some different experience from other people, so I want to share those too. So I'll divide into two parts, like the situation before coronavirus became the pandemic and also after. So it's been different. And mostly if you have never been to Japan has a really soft image from the outside, and if you have been a tourist, you probably might not have experienced this, so it might be a shock to you also. But it's the reality here in Japan, and it's not as extreme as other countries, but there is racism in Japan, as I'll explain in this video. And it's kind of, it doesn't come up in the media that much, it doesn't get much coverage, but as foreigners living in Japan, you get to experience and you get to know it. So I'll start off by experiences before coronavirus and after it, because the thing that happened after coronavirus is what triggered me to make the video. So at the beginning, I'm going to talk about when I first came to Japan 4 years ago to study abroad. And after coming here, after the first few months, I decided to move into my own house after leaving the dorm. So when I was looking for a house in Japan and I went to real estate, I got to see that there were houses that you couldn't rent because you were a foreigner. So during that time, I didn't give much thought to it. It was like a minor issue. I'm like, okay, maybe there are some reasons why they don't allow foreigners. But slowly, as I've been living here for almost 5 years, I thought about the situation. I was like, why they differentiate between foreigners and Japanese when renting houses? I get it if you are going to buy a house or buy a piece of land. In that case, it's really important for like the visa, your income and stuff like that, because they need to know you will be here. But for renting a house, there are places that don't allow foreigners to rent it, which was really surprising to me. And in my second year, I was trying to get this house, a proper house in Japanese you call ikkenya, ikkodato, a house, 2-story house. So I wanted to rent it, and I went to the real estate, and they kept on asking like, which country are you from, your roommates, which country are you from? Like, why does it matter which country I'm from? So that really surprised me. And then the owner said, no, I won't rent this out to foreigners. And then I was like, what's the reason? Like, why no foreigners? Then we met the owner. The owner told us that people from X country, I won't name the country, X country used to live in this place in the past, and they created a lot of noise and the neighbors complained, so I don't want foreigners here, but you guys seem decent. And eventually he let us rent the place. But yeah, there are differences when you go to rent a house as a foreigner compared to being a Japanese, and it's really hard to get a lot of different houses. The options are less compared to being a Japanese. So that was one place where we as foreigners we face discrimination. And the second thing is during part-time jobs. So this is something shared to me by a friend, Kohai. So what she told me is that in Japan, English teaching jobs are abundant. You get a lot of jobs teaching English. So she was trying to get a job teaching English, and she had all the qualification experiences teaching English in her country, but she kept on getting rejected. And the reason they gave her was, you are not a native speaker. The only thing that they gave was, you are not a native speaker. And it's not only her. Another guy reached out to me about similar situation where he tried to get a job, English teaching job. And I get like you need the qualifications, and I myself, I know I'm not good enough to teach English, but there are people, and she was one of those who had the qualifications, but they have this fascination for native speakers. And another friend shared that in a company where if you work in cities which are not popular and you're like the only foreigner working, and if you have another foreigner who's a native speaker, they kind of get more attention from the Japanese co-workers. So that's another experience that was shared by my friend. So this is kind of interesting to me. I don't know if you put it in racism, if they prefer native speakers for part-time job instead of English teaching. In some cases maybe that's the requirement, but what do you think? Let me in the comments below. Is this discrimination or racism, I'd love to discuss. Second thing is it's from a friend who started doing job in Tokyo. So he worked for this automobile company, and what happened is that he moved to a new city, so he needed to open a bank account. And when he went to open a bank account, the clerk asked him, "Where do you work?" And he said this name of this company in the automobile industry, and she presumed that he was a factory worker, not a corporate level job. She thought he was a mechanic. So that really hurt my friend and his sentiment, because Japanese people, some of them have this prejudice that people from X country can only come here to only do those kind of jobs. So in that case, he felt a bit insulted, and he said that it happened a few times, not only in that bank, but people tend to think less about other countries. And I think it contributes to the fact that a lot of Japanese people don't travel abroad and they don't know much about the outside world. So I think that contributed to that situation. Next up is about randomly getting stopped by the police. I think this is one thing a lot of foreigners face, where you're walking mostly at night, you're walking and then you get stopped by the police, and they don't harass you. So I don't want to paint the Japanese police as harassers or they are behaving rudely with you. It's something like that. They stop you, they check your residence card, they take photo, and they take your name. And I still don't know why they keep the record, but they do check it, and it's kind of weird for me. I used to work at McDonald's at night, and when I came back, I used to ride my bicycle, and I got stopped 3 to 4 times in 2 years, where they stopped me and they asked me about my bicycle, and they were telling there was a bicycle theft, and they wanted to check if my bicycle was legit, which was kind of insulting and surprising, because they are stopped. There was another Japanese person who was on the bike, but they didn't stop him, but they stopped me, which was kind of insulting. Why, if you are checking all the bicycles for theft, stop everyone. So I think a lot of foreigners got stopped like this and just randomly checked. So if you have, let me know in the comments below your experience. I'd love to discuss about this. And one other incident that's pretty common among foreigners is when you're riding on the train. It's called the Gaijin seat. It's really widely reported in the Japanese, English newspapers in Japan, and I read an article on Japan Times about this, where people don't sit next to a foreigner because he's a foreigner probably. And I didn't face this much in Beppu, it's a small city, but that person who talked about this in the article, I think he faced it in Tokyo. So I think a lot of foreigners do face this, where no one sits next to you. So the thing about this is, I talked with my Japanese friend. I did a small report during my undergrad studies about this behavior. Why do Japanese people do this? And what she told me is that probably those Japanese people are shy, or they're hesitant to sit next to a foreigner because they don't know the person or which kind. And that doesn't make sense to me. Why does it matter if he's from a foreigner or if he's a unknown Japanese person? There's no problem sitting next to that person, but that happens. People don't sit next to you. It's called the Gaijin sit. So those were some of the minor incidents that I faced, and as I said, they were minor, so I never talked about this on camera, never made a big fuss about it. But I don't know if I was wrong, if I should have talked about this small incident in the past, because I think that inner kind of hate towards foreigners that some Japanese have, or ignorance toward foreigners, that contributed to what happened after coronavirus. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. So firstly, after coronavirus cases started to increase in Japan, as you know, Japan started a travel ban for more than 100 countries, and it was really surprising. And at the beginning, I didn't understand much about the ban. I had this conversation with my friend, and she was right about it and I was wrong. I tried to defend the government, but actually I had a misconception about the ban. So the ban was basically for foreigners, regardless of you being a tourist or resident, you can't come to Japan. But if you're a Japanese who's living in those banned countries, you can easily come back. So it was really surprising for me that residents who pay tax here, who have a house here, who study here, even if they want to come back, they can't come back. But if a Japanese person who lives in the same country, in the same area, wants to come back to Japan, they can come back easily without any problems, without any trouble. So that's something that really surprised me and the whole foreign community. Foreigners didn't like this decision, because I get it, you don't want tourists to come to Japan during this time, and they shouldn't. Like, traveling now is risky. But people who have a job here, or people who have families here, or people who study here, they need to come back here. A lot of people like stuck 5 to 6 months for this travel ban, and it has been heavily criticized, and that ban was a big hit to the foreign community, because the future of Japan needs foreigners. The economy needs foreigners. So this was a really bad decision, I think, by the government to go this extreme. I thought more lenient restriction would be better, but now slowly, I think they lifted some of the restrictions and a lot of people now can come back. But that's the first thing after coronavirus. And then in my city, we didn't have much cases, so it was really easy going for me. I used to go to work, I didn't have to work from home, and I was happy. We had only in Beppu, I think 5 to 6 cases. Those 5 to 6 cases were only Japanese people, and suddenly we had, in the last 2 weeks, we had 14 cases, new cases, and 14 of those were APU students, the university I used to go to. Immediately there was a huge negative reaction to this situation, because foreigners got the virus, and as you know, the virus doesn't discriminate if you're a Japanese or a foreigner. But immediately, right after the first 2 cases arise of 2 foreigners from a specific country, my junior who worked at the restaurant, he reserved for having dinner with his friend, and immediately then when the news break, his reservation was cancelled because he was from X country. The student who got the virus and him were both of the same country, so his reservation got cancelled because he was from the same country, not because that person was his friend or they were in close contact or nothing. Just because he was from the same country, his reservation got cancelled at the restaurant where he himself does part-time job. That was super surprising to me, really disheartening, and I don't know why that happened. And then that Kohai junior, he got concerned, because if they can cancel his reservation, what about his part-time job? Because he's from that country, does he get barred from doing part-time job? And that's what happened. The next day he gets a message, there were 2 to 3 people from the same country, and the manager said that you can't come for 2 to 3 weeks, take a break, which doesn't make sense, because the government traced the contacts of those students and they tested and they found the other cases, and these 2 to 3 students were not part of that cluster, not close contact. But even then, without knowing anything, they stopped their part-time jobs, and that was the experience of this junior of mine. And it was really surprising to me. Beppu is a city which thrives thanks to AP students being in this city for 20 years. So that was a big blow to the respect I have and love for the city and its people. The next thing that another friend of mine shared with me, right after when all the other 14 cases came up, and then it was not only one nationality, it became a lot of different nationalities of AP students. And suddenly this hotel, which is one of the biggest hotels in the city, they told the employees, just the AP students, just the students, do not come to work for I think 2 to 3 weeks, take leave and don't come to work, which again doesn't make sense. Just because 14 students got the virus doesn't mean 5,000 students, like that's the amount of students we have, I think 2,000 international students, doesn't mean they have to be banned or stopped from doing part-time job because they are not in close contact. You can tell them to, okay, take a test or go and get a checkup if you have the virus or not, but just telling them that don't come to work, that was surprising to me. That was really disheartening, and a lot of people are suffering because they can't go to work just because they're a student and students got the virus. But the funny thing is, the first few cases here in Beppu were Japanese people, and you don't see them banning Japanese people from coming to restaurants. There was a teacher in a school who got the virus, and you don't see students from that school, Japanese students from the school, getting banned from restaurants. But another friend shared that he got looks when he went to a swimming pool, I think onsen. People were avoiding him and he was getting looks just because he's a foreigner, and there were cases recently. So that's another thing, he was looked down upon. Just because this group of students got the virus doesn't mean everyone is prone to close contact of those students. So the main thing that actually triggered me to make this video was this. I'll show the photo. This salon, barber shop in Beppu put up this sign that he's refusing APU students to come to the shop to cut hair. They can come. It's written in Japanese that I refuse APU students, which It's doesn't make any sense again. And that is the photo, or that is the incident that made me make this video. It's because all those minor incidents that I ignored throughout my undergrad life culminated to this thing, that this person in the shop, he thinks that it's okay to put up a sign like that. That is the alarming part, where someone Japanese, he thinks that putting up a sign like this is okay. And I don't think he still has put down the sign or not. And I think the mayor posted about this, about not discriminating, but people need to know about this and they need to be aware about this. And there are a lot of Japanese people, like maximum are not like this, but the few that are, it's really important to start a conversation about this, because this is just in my city what happened, but you never know if other shops do this or other people are doing this or not. So that's the reason for this video, is that those minor incidents that I ignored myself and a lot of foreigners we do culminates and goes into these big incidents, where if they need to blame someone or need to shout out someone, it's always the foreigners who fall into problem. So it's really, as I said, hard for me to make a negative video, but please in the comments let me know if you have faced similar situations as a foreigner in Japan, no matter which city you are, because I'm talking about Beppu city's incident in Oita, but if you have incidents that you faced in other prefectures, please put it in the comments. I really want to know if it's something that happened only in this prefecture, or is it happening in a different place where a foreigner gets a case, they are looking down upon you or discriminating. So let me know in the comments, and share this video if you want to. If you don't want to share the video, but at least share your incidents, so that you find relevant people and you can get those incidents solved, or talk to the mayor or the people, the administration in your area, because it's not right to discriminate against foreigners like this. And this video has been long coming. I never want to talk about racism in Japan. I love a lot of different aspects of Japan, but this kind of inner racism that they had, it's not as expressive as other countries, but it does hurt or discriminate against foreigners. So I'll put Japanese subtitles, as you can see, because a Japanese company reached out to me because they want to share this video with high school students in Japan, so that they can know about discrimination against foreigners, and they can know about the situation, and they can be better in the future, because we are all on this journey to be better than yesterday, so, and make it better. And I know there are a lot of great Japanese people who are trying to improve the situation, and I hope we can work together and bring the community closer, because I think Beppu is one of the unique cities of Japan where we have a unique mixture of Japanese people and international people, and I don't want to have a divide between that. And the target of this video is not to bash Japanese people or that one guy in the salon. It's just to point out that there are slight issues here that we foreigners face, and a lot of times I ignored, but a lot of people don't want to ignore, and I think we should have a conversation. I hope you can comment. Thanks for watching this video, and let's talk in the comments.